think or rather the CES ministry just said, okay, that's what's happening. You guys are not allowed into our airport. You are not allowed to pick or drop, especially in designated areas. So it is just a build-up of time has come.
It's a build-up of hostilities, but you need to understand the background. For the last 10 years, Kenyan operators have just been watching their counterparts do everything that they themselves are not allowed to do. And every time we inquire, we are either told the protocol will sort it out, just be patient, or your big brother, be patient. We used to hear, oh, your president is chairman of ESC, don't embarrass him. So many things that the operator would ask, so how does that concern me? So eventually it reached a point where we said, okay, enough is enough. This is business. If I cannot do a transfer in Tanzania because the Tanzanian laws don't allow it, Kenyan laws are very clear. You can't just start transferring out of the airport. You have to have a license. So I think partly it's Kenya's fault. We were negligent in implementing the law in the spirit of brotherhood. But it reaches a point where you need to discuss as per the agreement and then move to brotherhood within the agreement.
Just looking at that, I mean, East Africa has been trying to market as a single tourist destination, but what is coming to the fore is that Tanzania doesn't want to be part of that process. When you're trying to market East Africa, as a single, how easy or difficult is it just to market it as a holistic tourism proposition, value proposition?
It's not easy to do the overall marketing, although that's the target. A lot of companies do have packages that sell Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, but that is at company level. A lot of companies, if you take for example the Serena Group, has hotels in all these countries, so they do have a package. But at national level, you need to first of all get over these differences that we have. You cannot market a single destination when your operators cannot even see eye to eye.
So just looking at that, so how are the relations between Kenya and the rest of its East African neighbors?
Very good. There's this thing we keep on hearing being called the coalition of the willing, which is not really good for the common agenda for the ESC protocol. But there's a feeling that some people want to move maybe too fast, others are probably moving too slow. Taking care of all those interests can be a bit of a challenge. But as far as tourism is concerned, individual levels, people are doing quite well in marketing and selling packages across. It is that holistic offering of East Africa as one homogeneous product that is going to take a bit of a while. That's a bit of a challenge.
So if Kenya originated his tour in Kenya, what are some of the things that you'd look for? What are some of the tourism products that perhaps exist in Rwanda and Uganda that are unique to those two countries that we cannot find here?
Each country has something that is perhaps its key strength. If you go to Rwanda, they have the gorillas, which are extremely unique. You do that experience, you probably want to go back again. Rwanda the same. Tanzania and Kenya share a lot of products, but they are different in presentation. We have Mara, we have Serengeti, we have Mount Kilimanjaro, we have Mount Kenya. So we complement each other a lot, but a lot of times, unfortunately, it would be either or. I'll either do Mombasa or Zanzibar. I'll either climb Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Kenya. I'll either go to the Mara or Serengeti. So if we're not careful, we may end up being completely adversarial. Yet we could go back to the point where we have packages that are really regional, because the key thing is to grow the cake. Tourist holidays have become shorter. If we could get them back to the days where you even used to have 14 days safaris, that's enough for all to go around. So the trick lies, how do you grow the cake rather than scramble for what you're seeing on the table?
Small pieces.
Small pieces on the table. We are scratching the surface. Tourists into Africa is a drop in the ocean.
Just looking, East African tourism or East Africa tourist visa, is it a positive or a negative for the sector?
I'm not sure how good the uptake has been on that, because the visa benefits you if you are planning to do on many multi-destination packages. If you're going to many destinations, then your costs go down. But if you only had one destination to go to, then the cost remains the same. It doesn't matter what challenge. And a lot of times you may find that just having the visa as a single unit may not be the key determinant in doing that safari. There are very many other factors that go into the safari. But in an ideal situation, it would help to have lowered visa cost. But now Tanzania is not part of that arrangement. which means
coalition of the willing.
that equation is not 100% what it should be.
Yeah.
I would say it is a work in progress. Eventually it will be a very useful item to have when you have more people on board, but for now the uptake has not been that high.
Perhaps just in your dealing with the Tanzanian tourism operators or authorities, perhaps what is the biggest reluctance towards, because it would appear that Kenya, Uganda and Rwanda want to move at certain, want to see things happening rather than just wait back and not have it implemented and just keep waiting and waiting and waiting.
Well, the biggest complaint we hear about from especially some operators on the ground is that they're not able to compete with the state of Kenya's tourism. In terms of, if we had an open field, we would be able to just conduct our business in a way that probably would not be very helpful for them.
Yeah.
As you rightly pointed out, their numbers are growing higher. Kenya's tourism has had some serious challenges. So for me, I would say that they shouldn't have that much fear. It should work out. Things even out. Maybe the first 1 or 2 years may be a bit rough, but after that, I mean, not everybody wants to go into Tanzania. You're looking for a cost-effective way of managing the tour.
Yeah.
If it's effective to hand it over, I'd rather hand it over. I don't really need to come here. So it's a matter of just exploring how really can we best cooperate with each other. But first of all, get over this adversarial issue and review that agreement. It's 30 years old and
it's a cake. I think
times have changed, and maybe the thinking at that time is not the same as this time. That will be probably the first step. Let's look at how to cooperate. But if that won't work, start with the agreement.
So is there talks to come to the negotiating table? Is that what has already failed?
No. Contrary to the meeting we went in Arusha was the normal EAC meeting with all the 5 countries. But we were hoping to have a side meeting now that we are there.
Yeah.
It is the side meeting that didn't take place. But the meeting we attended was a normal one. We are hoping that there will be a time we can sit and review this agreement, but more important, if that doesn't happen, or until that happens, it's more beneficial for everyone to have the agreement implemented, so that we are now speaking from the same page.
Let's focus on Kenya.
Yes.
Obviously, the last 2 years haven't been that brilliant in terms of tourism, one of the key selling points for Kenya, but just looking at it, how have the last 2 years been, especially for tour operators in this country?
The last 2 years have been really bad.
Yeah.
If you talk to most operators on the ground, I think you generally get a consensus that we have never seen it this bad before. It's not the way that you wake up one morning and everything is gone. It's been one issue after another, piling on top of each other, going back to the KDF intervention in Somalia, coming into the various incidents that came after that, the Westgate, the airport. We were surprised that even Ebola, which was very far, played a very major role eventually, and I think still has a bit of an element in place, although it has gone down. But cumulatively, we have had the numbers coming down to a point where most people would say the industry is almost at meltdown stage.
So just looking at that, okay, when we talk about tourism, are we looking at the whole country, are we looking at specific regions? Because I hear it's worst affected at the coast. That's what we keep hearing over and over and over. But how is it on different other circuits? Like, let's look Mount Kenya, Rift Valley, and all those other the game drives. Is it bad all over? Is it just very, very, very bad at the coast?
The way the tourism product is structured is that you don't just come to one particular location and pop out. If I have a safari that does 2 days coast, 2 days Mara, 3 days Amboseli, etc., if something goes wrong at the coast, most likely the instinct is to cancel the safari. Secondly, the publicity we're getting on the negative side is not so much on Mara or Mombasa, it's Kenya. Because it's one picture, it's one destination. So it's very hard at times to divorce a particular destination from the country in terms of the outside reporting. On the ground, it's very different. You could have severe problems in one section, and even as operators, we can cut out that section in totality. But getting the message across that you might have a problem here, but you can still come here, has been a big challenge. Right now, as we speak, the impact is across the board. Admittedly, the Mombasa is the hardest hit, has the biggest problem, but it's still seeping in and affecting the safaris. So you find that the general overlook on tourism is just down, down, down.
So obviously Kenya is a single destination, but we've seen the president lead a lot of recovery efforts. There's that tourism recovery task force that was set up. How far along has it come in terms of just getting everything streamlined, and how do we see tourism numbers in 2015?
Okay, two issues. The efforts ongoing. I think a lot of operators, I think right now, would be expressing a feeling of frustration, extreme frustration. And that arises from the fact that there's a very big difference between efforts and results.
You're still in the planning stages.
So efforts are being made, no doubt. But the person on the ground, if truth be told, is not so much keen on what are you doing. They are more keen on what is the impact of what you have done. And as long as that impact has not yet started to be felt, there'll be a feeling of frustration on the ground. Operators right now, hoteliers, the industry in general is extremely frustrated.
So just looking at that, obviously not the best time to be in the tourism business, but what needs to be done? Because I've had ideas being floated of an international marketing campaign, pumping more money into the sector, but these are issues we've had over and over, even before it was that bad. Yeah.
Tourism is a very complex yet simple sector. It's very highly misunderstood, and over the years, if you look at the level of support that the industry gets in terms of budgeting and allocations, it's a drop in the ocean compared to our competitors. So if you look at how much you need to get things done the right way, that support has not really been forthcoming in the past years. There's a general feeling that this is a feeling of many, that the government has not supported the industry as much as it should have done. That now raises different opinions, because there are those who feel the industry has the capacity to do more for itself. There's all these arguments, but the bottom line is the industry is not where it should be.
Because I remember, C.S. Balala, when he was Minister of Tourism, he kept repeating over and over and over, you cannot kill the goose that keeps laying the golden egg. Is that the feeling, perhaps?
It's a feeling that most people have, that the goose is not being well fed, and the eggs will soon dry up. The challenge we're having, as you said, is getting the right mix of what to do. And talking of 2015, most people will tell you that the first half is a write-off. Most people are probably worried about the second half, because bookings are not done for tomorrow, they're done in advance. And in a lot of markets, February was the contracting period. So if you're not yet booked now, so who's coming up to June? The issues that the industry is looking at, one, has to first of all start with fixing the problem. Some of these problems evolve around security. Has that been fixed? And it's not so much security. In tourism, it is actual security and perceptions of insecurity. If I perceive I'm unsafe, whether I am safe or not is not important.
Whether you have a man with a gun doesn't change the situation.
If I perceive I'm not safe, that's it. I'm not coming here. So if we can get that perception of security lifted, and then you get our partners in the overseas missions to lift the warnings that they have. Because how do you market in the face of a warning? It's a waste of time and effort to go marketing to somebody who's been told don't go. Then you need to come back once you've done the fixing of the problem and you've managed to get a feeling of safety. Then you need to tell people about it. How do I come back and tell you that, oh, there was a problem, but now it's okay? Then you're talking for a lot of crisis PR management. That costs for money. Then you're also calling for sustained marketing. We have this way of marketing very highly this year.
Short bursts of marketing.
You have to have a sustained marketing effort. Because if you look at the kind of efforts other competitors are putting in, it is sustained. Not a huge burst in 1 year and then you go back to sleep.
Because even so recently, Tanzania was even advertising with a Premier League team with their training t-shirts, and I'm wondering, where is Kenya playing in this space?
We asked the same question, and there was a proposal to there was a similar campaign to be carried out with another team around the same time, but apparently didn't come to pass, which leads to question, as you're saying, about how much resources are we committing to this goose. It's a challenge, a very big challenge.
But then if in the short run, international tourists are not coming in large numbers. How then do we encourage local tourism? Because I mean, people haven't been traveling that much. One, because of the perceived high cost of tourism. Secondly, just because they haven't been endeared enough to travel and actually enjoy some of the things that we actually go out there marketing for other people to come and enjoy.
Okay. There are two views on domestic tourism, and there are those who feel that domestic tourism cannot get us out of the current situation we're in. Why? One, it tends to be short-term activity. Kenyans don't go on holiday all the time. They have certain periods that they all concentrate.
Christmas, Easter,
August, etc. Secondly, we tend to be family-oriented in holidays. So when you have a time when the kids are all in school, it's very rare you find people planning holidays. So the question arises, what do you do in the other months when Kenyans are not going on holiday? So our structure of tourism requires both components in order to really survive. But you're right. There are times when the domestic can be a real lifesaver, and that segment should be developed to grow a bit more. It will be a longer process. There are views expressed that for the immediate point we're in, international tourism may not be able to get us out of our mess in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So yes, domestic tourism is a very important component that should be developed, but with a bit of caution that it's not an year-round activity. So you may find spells when the places are empty because you need international guests. Number two, the country needs international guests.
We can't hide from that fact.
You need the inflow of foreign dollars, because domestic tourism is rotating money within the economy, which is good, but you need injection of cash from external sources as well.
Fred, in 30 seconds, because we need to wind up, what would you like to see for 2015?
2015, we have a lot of issues we want to see. One, we are fully expecting that once that report is done and presented to His Excellency the President, we'll get a very quick return in terms of response and action. We'd like to see the security situation completely addressed. We're also looking forward to a lot of international PR response. We also have a bit of a concern with the extent and the concentration of media reporting, especially overseas media. Any small incident on Kenya is splashed all over the world, and we are wondering why all this interest. So it gives us a very negative image, and some of these incidences normally don't appear in other countries. So that needs to be addressed. But it's a lot of international PR that you manage the image of the destination.
All right, thank you very much. That has been Fred Kaigo, Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Association of Tour Operators, just telling us about the situation of tourism in Kenya and how those relations with Tanzania, a bit frosty, but can be negotiated and actually improve relations between the two countries. Now, looking at other stories that made headlines yesterday, the Ministry of Agriculture is in talks with the National Treasury to secure 2.6 billion shillings for a maize offtake program. This will be the second application the ministry is seeking from Treasury, having exhausted 2.7 billion shillings allocated to the ministry in the 2014-2015 budget. The funds will be used to procure an estimated 1.3 million bags of maize from farmers before the end of the current harvest season. Late last year, the government announced maize prices of 2,300 shillings for a 90-kilogram bag and a rebate of 500 shillings per bag as compensation to challenges of climate change. Some regions in central and eastern Kenya are likely to register reduced harvest owing to inadequate rainfall experienced in the last few months. The ministry was, however, quick to reassure that the country has ample stock of maize, with 16 million bags available to last until mid this year. Now, the growth of Kenya's extractive industry is setting the pace for development of a niche service sector with tailor-made products suitable for investors in mining, oil and gas exploration, and also generation of energy. Global investors in support services have been setting base in the country in a bid to maximize the opportunity created. KTN's Charles Gitonga has the details on this story.
Kenya's nascent extractive sector is becoming a darling to both local and international investors. Prospecting companies such as Tullow Oil and Africa Oil Corporation, among others, have been pumping billions of money into this industry. This has seen rise of another crop of investors specializing in support services such as logistics, medical, catering and accommodation services to the prospecting companies, tagging along to take advantage of the opportunities. London-based Atlas Development and Support Services is one of these key investors. The company opened its regional headquarters in Kenya last year as a strategy to maximize on this opportunity. Atlas is now providing support services to Tullow Oil in the oil-rich Turkana Basin and also to the Geothermal Development Company in their upcoming 600 megawatt geothermal plant in Menengai Crater in Nakuru.
A lot of these companies don't want to do is all of the support services around the drilling. All they want to focus on is drilling.
To support its long-term investment plans in the country and in the region, Atlas cross-listed its shares at the Nairobi Securities Exchange in December last year, raising 450 million shillings through private placement to Kenyan investors.
We try and bid for a contract, especially if it's a government contract. We can say we are a Kenyan company. We are owned by Kenyan people. And I think that's a very powerful message.
The company is also eyeing other opportunities in these sectors such as drilling of oil, gas and geothermal wells across East Africa in partnership with the prospecting companies.
Companies that have got cash to spend on exploration drilling is where we will look to as a prime, basically, to come in and do the operation for them.
Competition in the support services industry in the extractives and energy sectors in Kenya is now heating up, with players such as Royal Oilfield Logistics Services and Supplies, Africa Oilfield Logistics and Civicon Kenya being other key players. And with a huge potential in Kenya's extractives and energy sectors, investors in support services are now betting big in what is becoming a key driver of the Kenyan economy. Charles Gitonga from the Menengai Geothermal site, Nakuru County.
Now moving on, international and local construction firms can start angling to tender for the construction of the second Nyali Bridge. Deloitte's head of infrastructure and capital projects, Dr. Mark Smith, knows that the project is built to cost about $100 million and will be critical in easing congestion at the port city. Now the construction of the second Nyali Bridge is tipped to more than half the time spent by motorists and trucks moving cargo in and out of the country's single largest port. Now the Port of Mombasa, according to the lead transaction advisor for the construction of the bridge, the project will be critical as it will equally change the fortunes of not only the locals but the business community as well. Now Deloitte will be handling the feasibility study, preparing tendering documents and advising on procurement of the project. The second Nyali Bridge project serves as the largest public-private partnership between the government and the private sector.
Through that section of Mombasa, finish a project and get it up and running. So there will be some, we have within our transaction advisory piece for this particular bridge assignment, it'll be about 18 months. So about 6 months that we'll do for doing the feasibility study, and then we'll take another 12 months to go out to the market to find the right investor, whether it be a domestic, international, or maybe a combination of both, who will then come in to basically do the actual construction and then we'll operate the bridge. So we're expecting sometime maybe mid to late 2016 we'll be able to break ground with the new bridge in Mombasa.
Now for a story that is bound to bring a lot of welcome relief. Now Kenya is set to load an additional 105 megawatts of geothermal power to the national grid from the Menengai project by the end of this year. Now ongoing exploration at the site by the Geothermal Development Company has discovered up to 130 megawatts of geothermal potential that could go a long way in lowering energy costs in the country. Now KTN's Charles Gitonga has more on the story coming out from Menengai.
Kenya's quest for affordable energy is slowly taking shape. Over the past year, close to 180 megawatts have been injected to the national grid, bringing down electricity bill ever so slightly. but that is set for another substantial drop when the Geothermal Development Company injects a further 105 megawatts into the national grid from its Menengai fields, with a further 365 megawatts targeted by the end of 2016.
Up to today, we have about 25 wells already completed. That's the wells that have been drilled to completion and tested. Some of them we have tested for steam production, and we know the outputs.
Geothermal Development Company has contracted 3 independent power producers who will be responsible for converting the steam to electricity. The 3, namely Socian Energy, All Power 22 and Quantum Power East Africa, will install a 35 megawatts power plant each at the Menengai geothermal site.
Each of them will operate independently. What we are doing is we sign an agreement with them for the power plant construction, but we don't control.
The project, which started in 2011, will be the fastest developed geothermal project in Africa, and the 105 megawatts will save the economy 13 billion shillings annually. Menengai is one of the key energy projects marked out by the government to help generate 5,000 megawatts of power by 2016. Other geothermal projects include Suswa, which will inject 150 megawatts, and Baringo Silali, with a projected capacity of 200 megawatts. This comes after KenGen connected 280 megawatts of electricity to the grid from All Carrier last year, in a move that is expected to lower the cost of living in coming days.
I can't wait for the day that my power bill will be cut in half. Isn't that so, Sophia? Are you also looking forward to such a day when power bills are, you're paying less than a G for power?
I know. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be totally amazing.
Yeah, I know you guys were focusing a lot on the Tiff, as you call it, between Kenya and Tanzania as far as tourism is concerned, but also just looking at how the numbers have been affected in tourism generally, because it's a conversation we've really wanted to have here on Morning Express. These advisories, how much have they affected the travel advisories that is from other countries as tour operators? Are you also feeling that heat, and how are you making up in terms of profits, or what measures are you taking to mitigate in this kind of a situation?
Thank you, Sophia. The travel advisories have a very negative effect, especially on corporate travel. We have a lot of travelers who know the country and they're comfortable with the operator, and they still come in. But when you look at the corporate travel or the travel agents or incentive business, it's really a big headache, because the warning puts them off.
Yeah, there's a task force as well that was set up. Mike, you also, I'm sure, know about it, on this tourism. What do you expect from it? What do you hope the resolutions they'll come up with to ensure things change for the entire sector?
The task force, I think, that is almost ready, the report.
Yeah.
The expectation is that whatever comes out will be quick in terms of action and sustainable in terms of the long run. A lot of times we have short-term programs that the sustainability of the sector has always been an issue, and most of the actions we have are not long-term sustainable. Look at the budgeting allocations, we do it every year. If you ask the marketers what they'll have next year, they can't tell you. So that's not a very good way to run an important sector. You need sustainability and a long-term vision of how to manage the sector for 10, 15 years to come.
Okay, well, thank you, sir, for coming in for
My
a business
pleasure.
chat. Michael, thanks for that conversation. Definitely just clarifying what is some of those issues. Those issues.
Today is your day, those issues.